Hi, my name is Josh. You can find me on Twitter at FYFJosh, and today I'm going to be analyzing a Dynasty Tight End Premium PPR mock draft. In this league, we're going to start one quarterback, two running backs, two wide receivers, one tight end, and two flex positions. In case you do not know, tight end premium is a type of scoring in fantasy football that gives tight ends a boost. Instead of the typical PPR or point per reception that wide receivers and running backs receive, tight ends in tight end premium receive 1.5 points per reception. Sometimes it's 2, but in this league, we are doing 1.5 points per reception, making the tight end position a little bit more valuable in fantasy. So I want to go through each team, tell you my favorite pick that they made, tell you my least favorite pick that they made, and then at the end, I will tell you my number one win now team. Then I will also go over my top 3 overall dynasty teams. Okay, so as you can see, 12 teams drafted in this league, and I'm going to go through each team, starting with the team in the first position. That is Chaboy J Rich right here. Um, and I really like this team. What I like most is not that he has the best group of running backs in the entire league, but what he did after the fact, especially in a dynasty league. I love the wide receivers he was able to grab after the first 3 rounds. Devonta Smith, Jerry Jeudy, Brandon Ayuk, and Darnell Mooney. This in a dynasty league is a core group of very young receivers that you can build around. And starting out your draft with 3 stud running backs, I love this. My favorite pick that he made was probably Darnell Mooney in the 7th round. I think Mooney was a steal here. This man was the 22nd highest scoring wide receiver in the year. He's young, very explosive, and if Justin Fields can become more of a complete quarterback, Mooney will have even more fantasy production next year. I love Mooney with this pick in the 7th round. My least favorite pick that he made is probably Jerry Jeudy with the first pick of the 5th round. Now, I love Jerry Jeudy as a talent, but he concerns me from a production standpoint on the Denver Broncos right now. The Broncos, they do not have a reliable quarterback at the moment. Maybe they have an upgrade, and Jerry Jeudy's value would skyrocket if they get someone like Aaron Rodgers or Russell Wilson. They just gave big contracts to Cortland Sutton and Tim Patrick. They still have Noah Fant. I probably would have taken someone like Pittman, Hollywood Brown, or Amon-Ra St. Brown over Jeudy here. But, I love Jerry Jeudy's talent, like I said, but that's probably my least favorite pick that your boy Rich made. Next, I want to go over G-Man J's team here. He started out with DeAndre Swift. This is a very balanced team with a very good mix of young and win-now talent. My favorite pick is probably DK Metcalf in the 3rd round. He's, coming into the season, a lot of people had DK as a top 5 dynasty wide receiver, and I still think the talent is there. He's an elite talent at the wide receiver position. Sure, there are rumors that Russell Wilson could leave, but at this point, DK has proven to me that he's an elite talent at the position, like I said, so I really think this is a good value for DK Metcalf. My least favorite pick that G-Man J made, I believe, is probably Mike Williams in the 6th round. I'm just not excited to have Mike Williams on my fantasy team anymore, especially in Dynasty. Sure, he has a ton of upside. He teased us with that upside at the beginning of the season, but then was incredibly inconsistent to finish the year. He's getting older now. He's 27 years old. I don't hate this pick or anything, but I probably would have taken someone like Brandon Ayuk or Darnell Mooney instead of Mike Williams here. And I'd probably even consider Chase Claypool over Mike Williams. The next team we're going to go over is Eagle Dan. He started off his draft with Kyle Pitts in the 1st round. This is a tight end premium league, like I said. So this team did come together nicely. I was kind of concerned after seeing Kyle Pitts, the first pick of the 3rd round. I'm not saying that's a bad pick or the worst thing you could do in a tight end premium league, but Dan certainly has some very sexy wide receivers and tight ends for a dynasty league. My favorite pick that he made is Michael Pittman in the 5th round. Pittman finished as the 16th highest scoring wide receiver this year in a standard league. Well, there were 24 other wide receivers that were drafted ahead of him in this draft. This was only his 2nd season in the league. He's kind of became a safety blanket for Carson Wentz in this offense. He's 6'4", 223 pounds. I would have taken Pittman over guys like Jerry Jeudy, Amari Cooper, and Elijah Moore here personally. My least favorite pick that Eagle Dan made was probably Kyle Pitts in the 1st round with a 3rd overall pick. I'm not saying he's not a 1st-round talent. He's super young, and if he was scoring touchdowns this season, we probably would be thinking very differently about Kyle Pitts, but I still have concerns there. But this is a tight end premium league, so it's not completely outrageous. I just could not have taken him this early. Even in a tight end premium, I would take probably the 3 wide receivers that went behind him over Kyle Pitts. And when I say the 3 wide receivers that went behind him, I mean Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, and CeeDee Lamb. So, a little bit of a reach in my opinion, but, someone to build around for the future. So the next team I want to go over here is the Joey Wright, who drafted from this 4 spot and took Alvin Kamara with his first pick. Joey has a great team that has a lot of long-term value, and they could easily win the championship year one. So there's a lot of balance here. I love the balance of youth and production. My favorite pick that he made was probably Mark Andrews in the second round. Mark Andrews is my second favorite dynasty tight end as of right now. I would draft Kyle Pitts ahead of Mark Andrews, but Mark Andrews is right behind him. They're kind of almost in a tier. Pitts went in the first 3 picks, and Mark Andrews went in the second round, 9th pick in the second round. So I love the value. My least favorite pick that Joey made is probably Alvin Kamara in the first round. This is just a bit too early for me in a dynasty league. He's an aging running back, so this is just my opinion. I get it. You know, Kamara has been a stud throughout his career, but we've already seen some signs of him slowing down. He had 3.74 yards per carry in 2021. He's had over 4.5 yards per carry in every single other season over the course of his career. So I'm a little concerned with his age there, but I still think Alvin Kamara is going to be a great producer for a couple more years now. Okay, so the next team I want to talk about here is K-Cam, 56. He was drafting out of the 5th spot, and he drafted Najee Harris with his first pick. I really like that pick. And I really like this team for a dynasty league. Now, he has some very young wide receivers that he needs to continue to produce like they did their rookie year. His number 1 wide receiver going into this league is going to be Elijah Moore here that he drafted in the 5th round. And his number 2 receiver is going to be Amon-Ra St. Brown. Now, I love these guys from a talent perspective, but I would be a little concerned going in knowing that these were my top 2 wide receivers. And then his 3rd receiver is Christian Kirk, Russell Gage after that, KJ Hamler. I just do not have a lot of faith in his receivers, but I really like the upside that they possibly could have, right? My favorite pick that he made was George Kittle in the 3rd round. Kittle is in a tier with the 3 tight ends that went before him. Maybe Kyle Pitts separates himself a little bit, but he is in a tier with Mark Andrews and Travis Kelce. And K-Cam was able to wait until the 3rd round where Mark Andrews was drafted at the 209 and Travis Kelce at the 26. So I really like that value on George Kittle in a tight end premium league. My least favorite pick that K-Cam made was probably Jamar Jefferson in the 11th round. Now, obviously, I'm nitpicking because this was an 11th round pick. But Jefferson was a rookie that was drafted in the 7th round of the NFL draft. He had his opportunity when Swift and Jamal Williams were out, but then Craig Reynolds ended up being the more impressive back. So, at this point, he's my 4th favorite running back on the Lions. I think Jefferson is a fine late round flyer in Dynasty, but there are other guys I would have rather had at that spot. Now, moving on, I want to talk about Numbnuts 6 or 9. He was drafted out of the 6th position. His first pick was Austin Eckler. There were some picks made here that I would have done differently, but this team can still compete. It's definitely not out of the running for competing in this league at all. My favorite pick that Numbnuts made was probably Stefon Diggs in the 2nd round. I really like Stefon Diggs, an elite talent that's tied to Josh Allen for the foreseeable future. My least favorite pick is James Robinson in the 4th round. Robinson, he just tore his Achilles. And even if he was healthy, he will have to compete with Travis Etienne on a bad Jaguars team. He was also undrafted, so the team has no draft capital invested in him. I just think this is a bit too early for James Robinson, in my opinion. I'd rather have David Montgomery, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, a lot of these other running backs over James Robinson. So moving on, we are going to talk about FYF Simon's team. He was drafting out of the 7th position. He started out his draft with Justin Jefferson. The running back position might be a little scary year one, but the talent around the running backs makes this team great for Dynasty. I am a little concerned. Miles Sanders, he's fine, but I don't love him as my running back 1. Tony Pollard, he's a backup at the moment, and I still think Zeke is going to get the majority of carries going forward. Alexander Mattison, same deal. So, but in a dynasty league, when it comes down to it, you can figure out the running back position. I love the build around wide receivers and quarterbacks. He's got a young elite quarterback with Lamar Jackson. His wide receivers are fantastic. So I still really like this team. My favorite pick that he made was Justin Jefferson with the 7th overall pick. Jefferson is my number 1 dynasty wide receiver, and I probably would have taken him in this draft 2nd overall behind Jonathan Taylor. So I like the value getting him with the 7th pick in the 1st round. My least favorite pick was probably Tony Pollard in the 7th. This was a bit too early for me. I love what I've seen from Pollard, but he's still behind Zeke, like I said. I would have drafted A.J. Dillon, Kareem Hunt, and probably even Devin Singletary and Rashad Penny over him. And that's just me personally. I know A.J. Dillon and Kareem Hunt, they're the second running backs on their team as well, but I just foresee more production from those two guys personally. If we remember Kareem Hunt, he was producing as a top 20 running back, even with Nick Chubb on the field. He's a great pass catcher. So that's something I would have changed there. The next team I want to go over is N. Haas 1995. He started out with drafting Jamar Chase out of the 8th spot, and I really like that pick. The only team that went 3 wide receivers in the first 3 rounds, and I love it. I'm super excited to have all 3 of these guys on my team. And when I say that, I mean Jamar Chase, Javonte Adams, and Jaylen Waddle. Great. And there's a good mix of youth and production here. Jamar Chase is both youth and production. Javonte Adams, elite wide receiver production, probably going to be the number 1 wide receiver drafted next year if he's still with Aaron Rodgers. And then Jaylen Waddle was so impressive his rookie year. And then he was able to follow that up with 2 stud running backs, Ezekiel Elliott and Josh Jacobs, following that up with Justin Herbert, getting 2 great tight ends. I really like the way this team was drafted. My favorite pick was Jamar Chase with the 8th overall pick. Much like the previous team, Simon's team, Chase is my number 2 dynasty wide receiver, and I probably would have taken him 3rd overall. So I would have gone Jonathan Taylor personally, Justin Jefferson, then Jamar Chase. My least favorite pick was Michael Gallup in the 9th. I do not dislike Gallup at all from a talent perspective, but he just tore his ACL, and we don't know actually when he'll be able to get back on the football field. His contract's up, so a team's going to have to invest in him, knowing he has this injury, knowing he's probably not going to play the beginning of the season. I know this is Dynasty, and we should think a little bit more long-term, but I have my concerns at this moment. So the next team I want to talk about is Brady Miller here. He was drafted out in the 9th spot. He took Joe Mixon with his first pick. He went running back, wide receiver, running back, wide receiver, which led to excellent balance with his top end talent. Then he was able to grab his young tight end in this tight end premium league. I like drafts like this. I like that he got TJ Hawkinson here. I like the balance he was able to create drafting this team. My favorite pick was, in fact, TJ Hawkinson in the 5th round. He's 24 years old. He has proven enough to me. So I love this pick in tight end premium. I might even consider taking TJ Hawkinson in a dynasty league over Waller, who was drafted in the early 4th round. And like I said, he got TJ Hawkinson with the 9th pick of the 5th round. So I love the value here for TJ Hawkinson. My least favorite pick was probably Travis Etienne in the 3rd. I actually love Travis Etienne's talent. I'm higher on Travis Etienne than most, and I expect big things from him. But this is a little bit too early for me. I probably still would have taken Barkley, Montgomery, Elliott, and maybe a few other wide receivers over to Etienne here. He still has a lot to prove on the football field. We've never actually seen him play an NFL game yet. So the next team I'm going to talk about is Gary here. He drafted out the 10th position and took Javonte Williams with his 1st round pick. A lot of people might raise eyebrows at that, but I think that's a good pick. That is a good pick. He was able to grab 3 running backs in the first 4 rounds. And, I like the way he did it. I know I like to build around wide receivers, but he was able to get quality wide receivers later and DJ Moore here in the 3rd round. My favorite pick was actually, believe it or not, it was Javonte Williams with the 10th overall pick. Again, you guys might be surprised by that, but Javonte Williams is a stud, guys. He is a stud. He's currently my number 4 dynasty running back. I would take Javonte Williams over Joe Mixon, Austin Eckler, Alvin Kamara, and I would consider taking him over Najee Harris. Again, that might sound crazy, but I love this guy, and I like what he's coming into next season. My least favorite pick, right there in the 2nd round, is Dalvin Cook in the 2nd. Yes, he's an elite talent at the running back position, but in Dynasty, I'm usually trying to sell running backs that are getting close to 27 years old. And here he was taken early in the 2nd round, just a little bit too early for me. The next team we're going to go over here is FYF John Luke. He was drafted from the 11th position and took CeeDee Lamb with his first pick. JL has 2 of my top 5 wide receivers in a dynasty league with CeeDee Lamb and AJ Brown. And like I said, I love building around wide receivers. He was then able to wait and grab top tier production with his next picks. So you got the 2 wide receivers. He got Saquon Barkley. It's a value. Darren Waller, I think this was a good pick, even though I might take TJ Hawkinson over him in Dynasty. But when you look at this team, it could win next year. He's got 2 stud running backs, 2 stud wide receivers, a stud tight end, and then really good running back depth. And then he was able to grab Dak Prescott down there. My favorite pick was CeeDee Lamb with the 11th pick. He's my third favorite wide receiver in Dynasty. I personally would have taken him over Joe Mixon, Austin Eckler, Alvin Kamara, Najee Harris, and Javonte Williams. But I like building around wide receivers, so I'm going to be a little biased. My least favorite pick was Darrell Henderson in 11th, and I actually had trouble trying to decide what my least favorite pick was here. Not because I thought there was a lot of bad picks. I just think there was a lot of good picks, really, when it came down to it. I considered Rashad Bateman, but it's good value there. It really is. We got to project a lot of upside for Bateman. But my least favorite pick was Darrell Henderson in the 11th, and I'm nitpicking a little. I just think John Luke could have really used more wide receiver depth here. He has got those two studs and Bateman, but, Jarvis Landry, who knows how much longer he'll be in the league. And he's got really good running backs with Saquon Barkley, Aaron Jones, A.J. Dillon, Kareem Hunt, Devin Singletary. I don't think he really needed to go Darrell Henderson here. And I like Darrell Henderson's talent, and he's not a bad value there, but I just do not see him producing next year with Cam Akers and possibly even Sonny Michel back next season, who look just as impressive. But Darrell Henderson's a good pass catching back. Going to the next team, we have Jay Wall, who selected Christian McCaffrey. He was drafting out of the 12th spot. Jay Wall was on the turn, and like I said, he was able to get Christian McCaffrey and Tyreek Hill with his picks. I really liked that. Those are two studs that are going to be great producers next season. My favorite pick was Dallas Goedert. I kind of put him into a tier with the two tight ends drafted before him, TJ Hawkinson and Darren Waller. I would draft both Hawkinson and Waller over Goddard, but Goddard's my next tight end off the board. And like I said, they're kind of a tier, and he was able to wait until the 6th round to get him. So I really like that pick. My least favorite pick, I don't have one specifically, but I look at his team and I see he has 3 quarterbacks in the first 12 rounds of a 1 quarterback draft. Good values on both Stafford and Watson late. And maybe he'll be able to trade those for some good quality draft picks or some other kind of capital. So maybe it's really Josh Allen is my least favorite pick here in the 5th round, because he didn't have to take Josh Allen here in the 5th round. He could have taken someone like, Michael Carter or Leonard Fournette or Brandon Ayuk, Darnell Mooney, Chase Claypool. Instead of Josh Allen, and waited until the 11th and 12th round and grabbed Matthew Stafford and Deshaun Watson, and that instantly upgrades this team. But I'm not going to nitpick about having Josh Allen. He's a stud for years to come. But I just don't like 3 quarterbacks in the first 12 picks in a dynasty league. Okay, so now I want to go over my number 1 win now team, and I want to go over my top 3 dynasty teams. So my top win now team would be Jay Wall's drafting out of the 12th spot. I'm only going over 1 win now team because, like I said, this is a dynasty league, but you got to take both into account. He's got Christian McCaffrey with his first pick, Tyreek Hill with his second pick, DeAndre Hopkins, Calvin Ridley. As long as Calvin Ridley's back, he's going to be a great talent. He's got a stud at quarterback, stud at tight end. He's got studs everywhere. Grabbing Michael Thomas down here, who I do expect to be a producer next season, but he doesn't have to rely on him. This is a really good team, and I think it's probably the favorite to win next season. Now, my top 3 overall dynasty teams, we'll start with the third. And my third favorite dynasty team would be Brady Miller's. I love what Brady Miller did here. He's ready to compete immediately, having Joe Mixon, Etienne, and Michael Carter as his running backs. He's got Cooper Kupp, maybe the number 1 wide receiver in the league right now, paired with Matthew Stafford. And T. Higgins, I really like. This team is a great dynasty team. He's got a stud tight end, a stud quarterback. He's got everything you want it for a dynasty team. My second favorite dynasty team out of all these would actually be Haas. I love this team. Like I said, I love building around wide receivers in Dynasty, and he's got the best wide receiver unit: Jamar Chase, Devontae Adams, Jaylen Waddle. But then he's also got really good running backs. He's got really good tight ends for a Dynasty league: Dawson Knox and Mike Gesicki. Guys, I'm really excited about. Justin Herbert's obviously a stud. This team knocked it out of the park. And my number 1 Dynasty team would be the champion. Boy, Jay Rich would be my number 1 dynasty team. He drafted Jonathan Taylor with his first overall pick, the number 1 dynasty asset. Yeah, Derrick Henry's getting older, but he's going to be a stud. But he's still got Cam Akers, who's young too. Ronald Jones with his last pick. And these wide receivers are so good. Trey Lance and Justin Fields, 2 of the best rookie quarterbacks from last year. I expect them to be great going into next season, especially Trey Lance. Good job, Chubb boy, Jay Rich. You killed this league. You have my favorite dynasty team out of everyone. So if you enjoyed this video, please go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe to Front Yard Fantasy. We will continue to put out dynasty and fantasy football content like this throughout the offseason. Also, feel free to leave a comment if you agree or disagree with anything that was said in this video. Love you guys, and thank you for watching.